we're going to add another feature that will make the staking reward token even more valuable. And that is, we're going to set a maximum supply, which means that once we get to a mintable amount, once the smart contract has minted up to X amount of tokens, it's going to stop issuing more tokens, which means that the staking vault is no longer able to provide rewards to the NFT stakers. And you might say, this is a bad thing? No, it's not. It's not a bad thing. All right? And let's take a look and see how that's done. I decided to do this video because it's one thing that I will be focusing myself in my upcoming videos in regards to the NFT staking smart contract along with the ERC-20 staking reward token smart contract. My goal is, as we learn each other how everything integrates and how everything operates and communicates between different smart contracts on the blockchain, we want to merge the NFT space with the DeFi space. And one of the things that I am heavily motivated in is DeFi. So what I want to do on the upcoming videos is to explore what we can do with the staking reward token and how can we leverage our NFT staking platform with DeFi. Okay? The first thing that I'm going to do, and this is a question or a scenario that was asked by one of our viewers. The question is as follows. So I'm sorry, I cannot spell your nickname, but thank you for your comments. Awesome, I really appreciate that. Okay, so he's asking, can we cap a max supply on the token? Absolutely yes. There is a way to do it, and we can set exactly like he's mentioning. He's mentioning, hey, let's set a max supply of 21,000 tokens. Okay, we can set any supply amount we want before minting the smart contract, okay? So, and he's also saying that once we reach the 21,000 mark, the NFT staking contract will disable automatically for all users that stake. Okay, perfect. Yes. So what we can do, actually, we can have a max supply set on the contract. So we have to code more features onto the smart contract, and this will be the ERC-20 staking reward token smart contract, which then will not allow any more minting once we hit that max number or the max supply that we code before deploying the smart contract, okay? With that said, and yes, on the dApp, we can actually say, well, after a certain amount, and we can be tracking the total supply, and we can also display a dashboard of how many tokens have been minted so far and what's the total supply or the maximum supply. That will be so cool to see it live on the web app. So then people are more excited to buy an NFT so they can start earning those tokens before the supply runs out. But also what I want to do as well is I want to be able to leverage DeFi. Okay, I want to give even more value to the token. So what I want to do, I want to inject liquidity onto the token. Okay, but for that, I need to provide a supply of those tokens onto a liquidity pool, which means that I either have to pre-mint those tokens when I first deploy the smart contract, or I somehow use the controller, in this case the staking smart contract, to mint those tokens. But that there is a trick with that, because only the controller can mint those tokens, right? Which means that the only way that I can get tokens is by staking, and I'm not gonna wait forever to mint 1 million tokens. That's not possible. So instead, what I can actually do as a developer, so when I first release the smart contract, I make sure that I pre-mint a quantity of tokens that I can use to build that liquidity pool. Okay, and don't worry, I am not going to touch liquidity pools yet. I will do that on an upcoming video. For now, let's do the following. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our into the reward staking token smart contract, and we are going to set a max supply of 2 million tokens. So when we first deploy the smart contract, there's going to be a maximum supply of 2 million tokens. But I will also premint half of the supply, which means that when it first gets deployed, I, as the owner of the smart contract, will receive 1 million of those into the reward tokens. And that sounds bad. Again, that sounds bad because that means that that holder, that single wallet, and this is why you got to be very careful with projects out there that they just do this to rug pull, right? So what they do is basically they'll premint half of the supply. You got a maximum supply of 2 million tokens, but then they premint 1 million tokens. And once the token reaches a certain level, they sell. And then the price tanks. How do you identify that? You make sure that you look at the smart contract. So if you're intending to invest in a project, make sure that you look at the smart contracts and see if there's already a wallet holding a considerate amount of tokens, because that can tell you a lot of things about what could happen with that project. Alrighty, let's go ahead and let's continue the show. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the smart contract. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's bring the existing ERC-20 staking reward token smart contract, which you will find at my GitHub. Okay, so let me open this. Here we go. And you can see it right here. So let's go ahead and grab everything because we are going to modify this in Visual Studio Code. Awesome. So in order for us to add a maximum supply, meaning that I am not going to allow any more minting by the staking contract to the reward token smart contract if we minted X amount of tokens. So if we get to that point, then no more rewards will be issued, okay? So in order for me to do it, I need to modify the smart contract, obviously, and it has to be deployed. By the way, this is a brand new contract, which means we have to deploy it back onto the blockchain. And we also have to deploy a staking contract because the moment we deploy the staking contract, it's going to ask for that ERC-20 token reward contract, which is the one that we are going to update. So we have to deploy both and deploy a brand new contract, okay? So what we need to do first, there's a couple of changes that we have to do in order for us to add a maximum supply to the contract. So the first thing I need to import will be the safe math. I have to sum two values, and you're gonna see them in a bit. So safe math, it's one of the utilities inside the Open Zeppelin Open smart contracts for the Ethereum blockchain that allows me to invoke add, subtract, multiply, divide, and so forth, and also convert into from big numbers to big numbers and so forth. So safe math, it's basically a toolkit that we can use to add functionality such as calculate, anything, right? Any math operation onto a smart contract, okay? And you're gonna see it in a bit where we will need this. Another thing that I need to import, it's going to be the interface, the ERC-20 interface. The reason why I need to import this is because there's two functions that we are going to use from here, which one of them is the max supply, which allows us to set a cap to the amount of tokens that we are going to deploy in this smart contract, okay? So this needs to be invoked, okay? And the second, we are going to deploy the function total supply, which allows me to track and verify how many tokens have been minted on the smart contract. What a good use case for this particular function. We want to display how many tokens have been minted in our React.js Web3 application. And we want to show the end users, hey, we have a maximum supply of 2 million tokens, for example, and we have already minted X amount. So they are aware that the tokens are running out. Okay, so that's a good way to do it by invoking that total supply function, which will get the latest amount of tokens minted. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. So the other thing that I'm going to do, I am going to invoke safe math because we are going to use that in a second. There you go. So we got safe math. Okay, two things that I need to, as a matter of fact, a couple of things that I need to do mapping for. I need to do mapping for every transaction that I do from the controller to the NFT staker wallet, which means that I need to track the balances for each transaction. And you're gonna see why I am creating this var or this mapping. I am saying this address equals UINT 256, which is the value that I am expecting, and I am going to store that in balance. And this is a private call. It's done internally in the blockchain. It's not something external or public. Okay. And another thing that I have to add, very important, total supply. So we are going to add a var, and we are gonna call this private, which will say total supply. This is where we will store the total amount of ERC-20 tokens, in this case the staking tokens, minted so far. So as the controller continues minting every time that someone unstakes or claim rewards, this value will keep incrementing. So we know how many is the total supply. So you have to understand the difference between total supply and maximum supply. So total supply is the amount of tokens minted and available on the blockchain. Okay, that is total supply. You can have a smart contract with a total supply, but not necessarily a maximum supply, which means that it can keep incrementing. Okay, so the total supply is the total amount of tokens in circulation. That's what it is. And the maximum supply, it's the complete supply of tokens. We're not going to have more than X amount of tokens, which means that it's not going to go, the total supply will not go over X amount. We decided to deploy this this contract with a maximum supply of 2 million tokens, right? Until we get to that 2 million tokens, the total supply will just continue increasing until we get there, because we set a maximum supply. If we do not set a maximum supply, the total supply will be infinite, meaning that it can continue inflating, because as the controller continues sending mint calls or mint requests to the ERC-20 token smart contract, the total supply will be updated and it will just continue increasing. And there's no limit to it. So that's what it is. And we need that because I want to display how many ERC-20 tokens have been minted or have been issued, and it's in circulation so far. Okay. Now this is a very important one. So the one that I'm going to paste right now, this is another variable that will store the amount. It's very similar to total supply. As a matter of fact, it's literally the same thing. The only difference here is that I am going to use this particular value to determine if I minted the complete supply. So if I went all the way to the max supply, I am going to determine that by obtaining the amount of tokens minted on the smart contract, and then I will use this to store that amount. So as the supply keeps increasing, because I am executing mint functions, this value will be updated, right? What am I going to do with this? I am going to code in the mint function a condition. If max supply or max sub, right, equals more than the max supply, then don't do it. You're not allowed to mint anymore. So it basically stops the whole thing. And you're going to see that in a second. And this one, how do you set the maximum supply of tokens? This is where we set that value up. Okay, so let me go ahead and paste that in. So we are going to create a constant that is called maximum supply. This is the name that I set it up. We're going to deploy the smart contract with 2 million maximum supply of tokens. Not total supply, maximum supply. The total supply, as mint functions are executed, this will keep increasing until we get all the way to 2 million. Once we get to 2 million in the total supply, there's no more tokens left. That's it. Everything has been minted. Okay? And what am I doing this? I am actually converting this in Wei, which is the lowest decimal value, the lowest measure in ETH. We can use Wei for that, and we have to deploy this in Wei. And basically, we're just going to add 18 zeros or decimal characters to the value. Okay. So this is how you set that maximum supply. So we're going to mint a smart contract. We're going to deploy a smart contract for our reward token that is just going to go to 2 million tokens. After that, it's not going to issue any more tokens. The maximum supply has been met, and all the tokens in existence have been minted and are in circulation. Okay, so no more tokens. Now let's build the mint function, or at least let's modify the mint function so then we can have that condition. I am going to add the requirement. So right now we do have a requirement, and by the way, this is how you set conditions, or at least, hey, it has to be this particular, it's like a policy. It's like a policy that, hey, only controllers can execute this mint function. In this case, the staking smart contract is the only one capable of executing this mint function. This is basically what this statement is. It's only the controller can execute the mint. We are going to add another condition, or another, condition or policy. Okay. Remember when I spoke and I explained what max sub is? Max sub, it's the amount or the total supply of tokens in circulation, meaning that how many tokens have I minted, right? How many tokens have I minted? I am going to grab that max sub value and I am going to add amount. What is amount? Amount, it's the request from the staking smart contract to mint X amount of tokens. Why am I doing this? I'm going to tell you why. Because this is how I will determine if we are either allowed to mint because we haven't run the maximum supply yet, or we ran the maximum supply. So let's say that a user in the NFT dApp or the Web3 application earned 5 tokens, right? If the user earned 5 tokens, what is going to happen is that once he hits claim, that request is sent from the staking smart contract, in this case the controller, to the ERC-20 smart contract, right? And I'm going to expand this a little bit more. Okay. It's going to send that request, hey, I have a user who requested 5 tokens because he earned 5 tokens on the staking vault. And what's going to happen is I need to know how many tokens are already in circulation, and I'm going to add those 5 extra tokens that are requested by the controller, in this case a staking contract, which then will say if max sub, meaning the total amount of tokens in circulation which have been minted already, plus the amount of tokens that you're asking me to mint are less equal than maximum supply, which is in this case is 2 million tokens, go ahead and mint. If not, display this message, which means maximum supply has been reached. Meaning that if this added with this, those 2 values are less equal than maximum supply, then go ahead and mint. Else, display this message. Okay? So that's basically what it does. So either I met the condition and then I can move forward with the function, or I will stop. Basically, the smart contract will say, nope, you are not allowed because you went over the request on the maximum supply. Okay, so that's how we set that cap. And we said we're not going to allow you to mint anymore. Now I need to add a couple of functions so I can read and store very important data. This is how I will add the value to total supply. Why am I doing this? Because I want to display that on our Web3 application. I want to get how many tokens have the contract minted so far, so we can tell the users, hey, there's there's already X amount of tokens in circulation, and the maximum supply is 2 million. So you decide if you're running out of tokens, you better get tokens before they run out. Okay. And basically what we're doing is every time this mint function gets executed, I am just going to add to this variable, which will continue increasing. I'm going to add the amount that was requested. So every time that someone claims, let's say 2 tokens were claimed, mint 2 tokens, then I just add 2 to this. Then if someone else decides to mint, I'm going to add, whatever amount they requested and so forth. So this will basically store the amount of tokens minted so far. Okay. And we will just call this with a get and React to display that on our site. Okay. Now I want to make sure that I am grabbing every single transaction and updating max sub, because this is how we are going to determine that we are going to run over the maximum supply or not. Because I need to keep track of how many tokens have been minted so far, right? So then I can put this condition to work, or else it's just not going to stop it from minting, right? So this is how we make sure that we are tracking how many tokens have been minted. So then we can do this math and determine if we are allowed to mint or we run out, we hit the maximum supply, okay? And this last one is for me to keep a track of the wallets and how many tokens have been issued to each wallet. And this is something that you can use to gather reports, audits, and so forth. So you can basically have this as an output. What's going to happen is going to grab 2. 2 is the address that the ERC-20 token reward smart contract will send the tokens to, or will transfer the tokens, which in this case, the 2 address is the NFT staker address, right? Once he or she claims the rewards, if process the mint, then the address that it's been sent will be the NFT staker. The staking smart contract tells the ERC-20, hey, mint this amount of tokens and send it to this address. This too is the NFT staker's wallet, okay? And that is it. And once all this happens, then it just executes the mint and sends the amount of tokens requested by the staking smart contract to the NFT staker's wallet. Okay? Understood, but not so fast. One last thing. I want to display the maximum supply, which means that I need to do a read function on the contract. So then we can show that information on the React website. I can either do, one or two things. I can create just a function that I can just do that call in JavaScript in React.js and get that value, or just type it via text because it's a maximum supply. It's not like it's going to change. However, the total supply, yes, the total supply is going to be dynamic because as people keep minting or requesting to mint tokens, that total supply will keep increasing, okay? So for that, it's better safe than sorry. So what I'll do, I'll just add both functions in case I just need to do a get. I wanna get that output, and so I can display it somewhere, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to create 2 functions. And those are read functions. It's just to view. Okay, so it's basically a public function, meaning that I can call that function and display the total supply on my site, meaning that I can just create a JavaScript function just like we have done on the previous videos to display information like the amount of tokens earned and stuff like that. So this can be done in a similar fashion. I can show how many tokens are minted from the staking rewards and how many tokens are left and the maximum supply. So then I can say, well, give me the maximum supply so I can display it below as well. Okay, so this is all it's doing. Okay, cool. And that's it. Once we do this, all we got to do left is reconnect the ERC-20 reward token to a new staking smart contract. So it's literally the same process as you deployed the staking smart contract on the previous videos. In this case, it's video number 4. On video number 4, you can actually see the process. When you deploy the staking smart contract, you first need to deploy the reward token. So you will have to deploy this first, get the token smart contract address, so then you can deploy the staking smart contract. If you have doubts, go back video number 4 or on deploying the staking smart contract, and you're going to see the process, okay? And one last thing that I want to do, and with this we'll end the video, right? And by the way, I am going to show you this already deployed because I already did this. What if I want to, and this is one of my, this is one idea that I have on the video series. I am going to not only use this as a staking reward token, meaning that I'm going to issue this as a payout to my NFT holders, but I also want to trade this token, meaning that I want to provide liquidity. I want to make sure that people can buy this on DeFi. But in order for me to do that, I need to create a liquidity pool. I am not going to touch that now. It requires a different video, okay? But at least I want to show you one thing that I have to do. In order for me to open a liquidity pool, I have to deposit equal amount, or at least, I have to deposit equal amount of tokens in both values. So let's say I want to swap, or I want to allow exchange and give value to this token by depositing 1 million into the reward tokens, and I will have as a collateral or as a liquidity token, I'm going to have the other token that I'm going to accept as a payment to get one of those into the rewards. Meaning that, let's say I want to exchange this for USDC or USDT. I want to set the value of this token to 1 cent. And this is how you put value to ERC-20 tokens, right? So let's say I want to give 1 N to the reward token a 1 cent value. That means that I will have, and let's say I am going to allow people to buy it with USDC, okay? That means that I have to divide 1 million. Let's say I want to give 1 million in the liquidity pool. I will need to deposit 1 million into the reward tokens and 100,000 USDT, which means the pegging between one and the other will give 1 cent value to the staking token, okay? And that's how you allow this token to be traded in exchanges, okay? So as people exchange more USDT for your token, obviously your token raises the floor value or the price because it's in demand and so forth. But in order for me to build a liquidity pool, I have to deposit 1 million tokens. So let's say I want to give 1 million tokens as a staking reward token, meaning that I want to leave 1 million so users can earn that as a staking reward, but then I want to grab half of it and throw it on a liquidity pool. So if I want to do that, I have to make sure that I mint those beforehand. So that is called a pre-mint. I have to pre-mint that before I can allow this to work, or at least when I deploy it, because guess what? Once the contract is deployed, I cannot mint one myself. I cannot say, well, give me 1 million tokens. It's only allowed by the controller, which means that I cannot tell the controller, hey, mint 1 million, unless I earn those 1 million tokens staking. So that means that no. So if I want to, so that's why you have to make sure what are your plans? What are you intending to do with this token? Because once you deploy it, that's it. There's no way to, unless you wait the staking period to earn 1 million tokens, else you're screwed. You cannot provide liquidity unless you hold X amount of tokens. How do we do that? So I want to deploy 2 million tokens as a maximum supply. So I will leave 1 million as part of the pool to issue tokens to our NFT stakers, but I want to get 1 million tokens myself. So what I need to do, and this will be the last command, and this is optional, this is not mandatory. What I want to do, I want to mint, right when I deploy the smart contract, I want to mint 1 million tokens and send those tokens to my address, okay? Which means that there's already 1 million tokens minted and there's 1 million tokens left to issue to the NFT stakers, okay? And by the way, this is not mandatory. This is optional. You don't need to do this, okay? So you can just deploy it and just leave, 2 million just for stakers, okay? But in this case, if I want to leverage and give some collateral value to that token, I have to make sure that I have some tokens that I can offer for sale so people can buy it, okay? And that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave it there because I will definitely do a video on how to make a liquidity pool. You like that. I know you do. Awesome. Okay, last thing you want to do, you want to make sure that this is all properly formatted. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Remix. And I am going to create a new workspace. Okay. And I am going to create a new file. Let's call this rewards token. Okay. I'm going to paste this in. And first of all, I want to make sure that this formats properly. There's no issues. And let's change the compiler here. Let's see, crossing fingers. Beautiful. Not a single error. Okay. I am now going to show you deploying the contract. I am going to deploy it using the EVM, the JavaScript virtual machine from the London fork. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this just to show you, but I have a fully deployed smart contract in Wrinklebuy, so I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to deploy it so you can see it. And then I should get 1 million tokens deposited onto this wallet, and then the maximum supply should be 1 million left for stakers. Okay, so I'm going to deploy the smart contract, and boom, has been deployed. And now here's the ad controller. This is where we add the staking smart contract address so it can perform calls to this particular contract. And let's now look. Let me copy my virtual wallet address and let's see my balance. I should get 1 million tokens. And sure enough, this is GUI, so it's 18 decimal characters. So it's basically 1 million. Basically 1 million. And let's see how many tokens left. 1 million tokens. Okay. Now let me show you a contract that I deployed on Wrinklebuy. And by the way, this is the tokens. I want to, let's see if this transaction has a copy of the contract. I believe so. Yes, it does. Okay. So this is a contract that I deployed using this new contract that allows you to have a set amount. And I basically hold 1 billion percentage. So basically I own 1 million tokens on this wallet, which means that was the premint. So I can use this amount to throw it on a liquidity pool so people can start buying that token and exchanging it for USD or Ethereum or any other token. I'll talk about DeFi. DeFi is a whole world. I love DeFi. It's one of my most favorite topics in blockchain. But I'll talk about that in upcoming videos, okay? And sure enough, you know, I already tested it with some staking and unstaking and claiming, and there you have it, okay? So what I'm going to do, I am going to provide this smart contract in the link to this video so you can use this instead if you want to have a maximum supply on your reward tokens. Alrighty? And let's wrap it up. So we set a hard cap of 2 million tokens. From those 2 million tokens, I decided to mint 1 million, send it to my wallet, which then I will use to open a liquidity pool. Okay? And we will give not only value to the token by using it on our NFT marketplace, which is coming, but also users or investors can go to a DeFi that runs on Ethereum. Any DeFi can be used because we will have a router, and basically I will explain what a router is and DeFi router. I'll do that on another video because that's strictly DeFi. Okay, but any router, as long as it communicates on the Ethereum blockchain, can find our pair and swap. Okay, and we'll have a developer fee. We'll have the DeFi fee, right? So whoever is holding whichever platform, Uniswap, you know, any 1inch, those are aggregators. Once we deploy the liquidity pool, they get that service fee, right? Unless we deploy our own router contract, which is, I would call it a completely different animal. That's very deep, low level DeFi. Okay, but at least you'll see how everything communicates. And then once we inject that token, we should be able to see the value and simulate the value. Okay. All right. let's go ahead. And on our next video, I am going to answer a few more questions. I am going to research, because I've been seeing a couple of users asking the same scenario, that they're not able to integrate the OpenSea API Polygon, for example. It only works with Ethereum. So let me see if I can do something about that, or if there is another source that we can use to serve Polygon, okay? Alrighty, well, I hope you liked this video. If you like my content, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.